Angels are stars, part 2. So we ended part 1 with 1 Peter 1:12, talking about, I'll repeat it. It was revealed to them that they were serving not themselves but you, and the things that have now been announced to you through those who preach the good news to you by the Holy Spirit sent from heaven, things which angels long to look. So they can never get what us humans have been made to do. We use our time, hopefully for the good, in gaining knowledge and wisdom. Angels are made for very precise purposes unless they rebel. So if they rebel, they do have free will, they can rebel, and 1/3 of the angels of heaven did rebel. All right, the other 2/3 are following orders. And for the most part, this is just me, but I want to say they're probably very disgusted with mankind, because only about 1% in any given generation really gain any real wisdom. We are so far more ignorant than ancient man. It's pathetic. If you look into our ancestors and the wisdom that they had, we couldn't survive today. If you take away electricity or phones or internet, we'll be dead in no time. We have lost our ability to navigate ourselves around the oceans, around the waterways. We don't know how to navigate by the stars. That's what I mean by ancient man. And so we're just kind of floating around in this sea of technology. There's no wisdom to be gained there. So we are literally, with the technology, programmed away from any type of wisdom or knowledge, right? What are we doing? We're just playing ball. We think we're here for sports or fashion or fame or money or power. We're just playing ball, right, with the big boys. So some rich millionaires are playing with the big boys. Well, the angels, they just sit in the corner and record your stupidity. At this point, any type of education, the kids are going to school, it is a dilapidated, broken system of ignorance and control. But guess what? Our kids are loving it. They love the ignorance and they love the control. They love the entertainment. So before moving on with Potter Vessel Watcher angels, let's wrap up the fallen watchers and their superior control and bringing what heavens have decreed. All right, soon this earth will end another cycle. That's just all there is to it. The cycle is going to end, and there's going to be a resting period of at least 1,000 years, at least that. So these warrior dark angels, they have a war on for your soul. They control what you think. Now, people like to call them other names. They call them Freemasons, Illuminati, I don't know what all, Knights Templar, the Vatican. Okay, there's all kinds of people in those organizations, but look, they're already in the mason jar. Their souls already closed up in the mason jar. What do we need to know about the princes of the air in Ephesians 6:12? Well, there are both good and bad. Also, they are the ministers, and truly our only ministers. You should know what we know for sure of this world. It's going to end. It's promised in many places. I'll just read Job 26:10. He hath compassed the waters with bounds until the day and night come to an end. It's that simple. The day and the night's going to come to an end. This world will end. Your time here is short, limited to be getting any real knowledge. So bounds here can also be known as spheres, right? As in Ezekiel wheels within wheels. Oftentimes I call them spheres, but again, they are simply the ministers of God's Mazaroth. The princes of the air, I also in many of my videos call them dragons. The original language of the princes of the air in the Sefer Yetzirah, I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's roughly how to say it. Anyway, in chapter 6, it talks about the Teli that rules space like a king on a throne, which also means the Milky Way galaxy, also known as the guardians of the Milky Way. They are the leadership over all of the host of heaven. By their command, all the spheres of heaven go forth, and on their command, they stand still. Now, the original language, again, you got to go back to original language. It's called Nahash Bria. And what that means is fleeing serpent, as in Isaiah 27:1. It's also known as Aklatan. Again, probably pronouncing that wrong, but close. Aklatan. That means winding serpent, as in the Ouroboros snake eating its tail, also known as the dragon. All right, these princes are the souls of the spheres, and each vibrates at a separate intelligence, a separate glory, and a separate virtue, and they all have names. I'm going to show you one of the Bibles that I'm reading out of. You guys know I read out of ancient Hebrew, but I'm also going to show you another Bible where I'm getting a lot of these names of the stars and information about the heavens. I'll make a point, maybe at the end of this part 2, I'll go over to the table there and see if I can show it to you. It's very tedious. The writing is so small, but anyway, all of these stars, they're souls or spheres of the angels, is the way the ancient language talks about it, and they're all got a separate intelligence, a glory, and a virtue. But still even higher than the spheres, there are groups of angels known as the Merkava, also known or talked about in the Bible as the chariots. So remember Ecclesiastes 5:8, if thou see the oppression of the poor and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter, for he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. So I say that just so you know, there's layers, ranks, not layers, but really ranks, hierarchies, if you will, of the angels. And again, in the original language, starting from the top down, first you have the Hayut. They are known as above all others. Next is the Ophanim. That is the wheel angels, right? The wheels within wheels, like I said, Ezekiel. Then Elim, they are known as the great exalted ones. Then there is this Chashmalim. They are known as the fiery beings of Ezekiel 1:27. Then you've got the reptilians, which are known as the Seraphim, the burning ones. Then you have the Malachim, the messengers. Then you have the Elohim. They are the judges of the lower realms. That's what Genesis 1 is all about. Elohim. You see how many ranks are above that? Elohim, they are the judges of the lower realms. That's you and me. All right, then you have the B'nai Ha-Elohim. So the B'nai Ha-Elohim, they are the worker bees for the Elohim. Then you have the Cheruvim. They are the childlike angels. And the last group is the Ashim, and they are the human-like angels who appear to mankind. So all the stars, all the planets have a soul, which means, what I mean by that is they have a specific knowledge. They're immortal, first off. They have a very specific knowledge known as glory or virtue and intellect. They have the knowledge of the heavens. So it is for us to know the scriptures are written in the stars. It's all there in plain sight. Their knowledge, their glory is there for us, shining down on us. Are we looking up? Do we bathe in the starlight like we do the sun? We should. Now, again, you've got the rogue, dark, little g gods. the bad angels. And they are making their own offspring. Right? Daniel 2:43. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. All right. Right here is one clue. We, this race, this time around, we are the clay. Now, how can they mix us with iron? Well, that's simple, right? It's the chemtrails up in the sky. It's, you know, there's heavy metals everywhere. We can't escape the heavy metals. What's taking us into something other than human. But what Daniel is most famous for is the dream, right? Remember that, Nebuchadnezzar? About that huge statue that's made of gold, brass, silver, right? Again, we can read that. Let's go ahead and read that in Daniel 2:38-42. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art his head of gold. So that's the beginning of the statue. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all of the earth. The fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron break in pieces, and subdue all things, and as iron that is breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou saw the feet and toes, part of a potter's clay, part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in the strength of the iron, forasmuch as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part iron, part clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. That is us. We are that kingdom today. All of us living right now on earth, that is us. Partly strong, partly broken. As above, so below. It's always a micro of the macro. So just as in Daniel's timeline, the statue is about the kingdoms on the earth during this creation period. But there have been other creation periods that this statue is a foreshadow or a, what's the word I want, metaphor, allegory, whatever you want to think of it. It is talking about other kingdoms and what's to come. So there will be, so we're the last. There's going to be a resting period after us. Right? We're the toes. There's going to be a resting period. So the idols of these elements that we just talked about, Nebuchadnezzar's statue, once your mind is free to accept the supernatural, the entire Bible begins to make perfect sense. Once you can connect the Bible with the stars and the constellations and the Milky Way, once you can free your mind up and think outside of the box, it all makes a lot of sense. All of that war that's being fought up there in the sky. Do you know about it? Ophiuchus? Or Hercules? Or the Virgin? Or even Pisces? So that's God's astronomy. Let's be super clear about that. So one thing that we, and you know, they're before I leave the little g gods, they have offspring. And one thing we got to know about that is that offspring started before Adam. It started in Genesis 1, way before Adam. All right, so I'm going to go now, because I've already done videos on that, so I'm not going to spend any more time on that. I am going to wrap up. I'm going to wrap up part 2 here, and we're going to come back in part 3, and we're going to go through more of Daniel, and I'm going to ask some really serious questions. Maybe you guys have never thought about this, but I'm just going to put this out there so that we can begin to explore as I go through this video series. Why in Daniel 10? We're going to read that in a minute in part 3, but why in Daniel 10 did an angel get stopped for 21 days, why did he never say, "The Lord rebuke you," as Michael did with the body of Moses? Have you ever thought about that? This Potter has. Potter out.